All right, you guys. So I am opting out of doing Insecure recaps because I just don't like the show enough to do Insecure recaps. But what I do like is the conversations that the show spawns. So this week's discussion, inspired by Insecure, is it ever a good idea to invest in someone's potential?
I don't know. I got the nigga with potential. You know, I got the work in progress, and it took a lot of support and patience, and I feel like she's reaping all the benefits of his time with me.
And we know that Lawrence now is flourishing. He has found a new partner in Condola, even though Condola don't seem to be all the way in on Lawrence, whatever. Don't blame her at all. And now Issa is kind of realizing that Lawrence has leveled up. He's living this great new life. He has a great job. Condola is like beautiful and smart and successful. Did y'all see her house? Did you see Condola's house? Okay. So the big conversation that's been spawned because of Issa's words in that episode was about, is it worthwhile to stick it out with somebody when they're doing bad and invest in them? Let's discuss it. Call in.
Hi, my name is Kira. Someone wrote this in the comment, and me and my friends been talking about it the whole time. Lawrence did not level up. He just has a job, as he should, as a 30-year-old man. He's still insecure. He's still he's still very ego driven. The car that he's like, I need this type of car, or he's marching in for a promotion because he believes that Condola deserves a certain type of man. That's that insecure classism seeping in right there. That he thinks that a certain woman deserves a certain type of man. And I don't really think he leveled up. That's my point. I don't think he leveled up. I just think he has a job.
But he is doing better than he was in season 1, right? Because season 1, he was depressed and sitting on the couch.
Yes, he's doing better. Financially. Which is making him appear to be better. And I think that's just, in our society, financial success for a lot of people seems like better, when in reality, people really be struggling emotionally, mentally. Financial success does nothing for a person if they lack boundaries, if they don't know how to communicate, if they're not sure of who they are. And I'm seeing all of that with Lawrence. And I've felt that way about certain guys. Like, he's doing this, that, and for her that he didn't do with me. And then come to find out, he was still cheating. He was still doing this. He was still doing that. Like, I think we need to define more what leveling up really is, because I think a financial level up is just simply not enough for 30-year-old women, because honestly, he should have always been working. He got a job.
You're not wrong. But okay, he is look, it's just a job, but it's like a good job at like a tech company. He seems to be doing okay. Don't you think that now makes Lawrence a more attractive potential partner? Like, it's more, at least having a job, you are a more attractive partner than when you are a bum sitting on the couch.
I agree, but then as soon as his ego was slightly bruised by Condola, he's trying to slide into Issa's DMs. That's not an attractive partner. That is a troubled partner.
You're not wrong.
That needs to do some work on himself and within himself, that you so mad that this lady was married before, and then B, when he volunteered to fix that sink, I knew it was going nowhere. I said, this fool don't even know how to fix the sink, and now he's trying to fix the sink for Condola because he thinks she deserves that.
But you guys are so hard on her. Okay.
What she deserves is for you not to be sliding into Issa's DMs knowing that we building something right now while you still dating me. That's what she needs. She don't need you to fix her sink and you're not a plumber.
Okay, was that it? Okay. You're so funny. Was that a DM slide? Isn't it possible that that's just a friendly, hey, how are you doing? Like, I see you out here looking good.
No, he doesn't need that. Let's lead up to his actions. First, he acted like he was so bothered that Issa and Condola had a little sentence about him, as if they didn't have anything else to talk about but him. And then he tries to act like he was so disinterested in talking to Issa when she had called him, like, should I tell Condola? He like, nah, and like rolled his eyes and got off the phone. Now you see her happy and you coming into the trenches because you're not happy. For a moment. For a moment. It was only a moment. He didn't even sit with himself with that. As soon as he left, he's sliding into Issa's DMs. I'm very concerned about Lawrence. I really want him to see somebody.
Yes, Lauren has problems. Lawrence has problems. And I think that he's using women to work through those problems, as straight men often do. I agree with you.
And for my own personal self, I have felt that way before, but what I've realized is that I came into relationships with areas that needed to be worked on, and I may have worked through them with some man, and I might have been a better woman to another man after him. So I just think it's kind of what happens in life, even if it's not struggle love. I'm not saying do struggle love, but I do think you might be a person, and you might have grown up an only child, and you may be extremely selfish in your relationship, not wanting to share food and da-da-da-da. That relationship ends, you go into another relationship, and you give yourself the opportunity to now share your food. Because you've seen that I'm using share food as a simple example, but you give yourself time to be a different person. I think it's okay to, Lawrence is problematic to use for this example, but I do think it is okay sometimes, not all the time and not every single relationship, but I do think everybody, no one's perfect. So in every area, you may have something that is just potential. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. And it could be anything. Like when you start a job, a lot of times, like I've been blessed in the area of working that I've been able to start jobs where they let me learn on the spot. And like, you know, I'm like learning project management now. And like, that's because I had the potential. So I don't know. I think I do agree with everyone. Like struggle love is like, we don't want to do that, especially in the Black community. But I also see that potential is something I'm not doing it with a man who doesn't have a job and all of that. But if his issue is being an only child and he doesn't share his food and we talk about it and then he starts to change, then that's another thing. Like, I don't know. I think no one is perfect and everyone has areas of improvement. So what you think may be you investing in someone's potential, they may feel the same way about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was great. Have a good day.
You're welcome.
Y'all are so funny.
You too. Bye-bye.
Y'all are so funny. That is so funny. Well, let me just say this, right? So I think the potential conversation gets skewed, particularly when it comes to Black women, because we so often are encouraged to invest in partners and we never get to reap the fruits of that investment. We never get to reap the rewards, is what I mean to say. And so it's like, girl, don't do that. But on the other hand, I can absolutely say that I have my last real relationship, like he made me a better partner for the next people that I partnered and dated and like hooked up with, like, you know, and like he didn't reap the reward. He lost significantly. And I can admit that, right? So there are, but also I'll just go off and say, I don't invest in men, not interested in it. So, you know, just saying. Okay, next person.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I think, especially when it comes to this conversation, I think it's important we ask questions about who's doing the labor for the investments. And I think I have so many friends who are constantly in relationships, and it seems to be that they aren't reaping the benefits when it comes to investments, and that their partners, well, I feel like, well, number one, I think there's a difference between their normal responsibilities you have in a relationship and investing in a relationship. And I think it's a person's individual responsibility to invest and do the work that they need to do in order to be a better person, versus expecting their partner to do the labor in their relationship. And I think, especially for a lot of times, we know that men, they don't invest in relationships. They don't do the labor that's necessary. They expect other people to parent them, to teach them, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't do the work that women do in the relationship. So I feel like it's really important to ask kind of questions about like who's doing the work, and are you as an independent person doing the work? Are you depending on another person to do that labor for you?
Yeah. I also think that if you are choosing to do the work, you should think about why are you doing it, right? Like, are you doing it because you really want to do it, or are you doing it because you feel like you're expected to do it? Are you doing it because you think that you're gonna do this work today, and then a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, you're gonna get something back? And how are you gonna feel if you don't get nothing back in 2 years? Like, how are you gonna feel if everything that you have invested somebody else gets? Like, are you gonna be mad about that? Because if you are, you should really reconsider.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unrealistic. I think the goal theoretically of relationships is to end up a different and better person at the end. So I'm like, we're all on some level gonna like not reaping benefits of relationships. And I'm like, think relationships aren't eternal. They don't last forever. So I'm like, hopefully if you're with someone who's healthy, who has great boundaries, and who you're growing with, you're going to be a different person at the end of the relationship. And the person that you enter into the relationship with next is going to get a better version of you. So I'm like, I feel like that is realistic to expect, but I feel like when you're actually in the relationship, it's important to ask the questions about what kind of labor you're doing and what kind of expectations you have for your partner in terms of growing as a person. So
yeah, I absolutely agree with you, but I also think that like some people don't expect relationships to end. You know, like I think, yeah. So I think that we should also be honest with ourselves. Like you mentioned, like most relationships do end.
Right.
There's an end date.
Yeah.
So are you preparing yourself for what happens after the end date?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So again, I will say, as a Black woman who unfortunately partners men, there are men out there who will invest in you. You just got to vet them. Going into relationships with an end date in mind is a thing. Most relationships end. I don't know if you should have like a concrete end date in mind, but I am not looking to get married. I don't have a deep desire to get married. So if I am in a relationship with somebody, if I'm dating somebody, I have a pretty good idea that there's going to be an end point at some point. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, so I have this dilemma because obviously I'm a Black woman, and I was dating this guy who emotionally I felt like I had to teach him how to express himself, that therapy was important, that all this stuff was important that he never got. And I'm wondering, I'm 29, even though I look 16. I'm wondering, have you run into that? Have other Black women run into that where we know how to better ourselves emotionally, and so we feel like we have to better the men that we're dating emotionally?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I think.
Do you feel obligated?
Do you feel? Yes, I think a lot of us do feel obligated, or I'll just speak for myself since I'm only me. I feel like I have had the benefit of lots of access to education and mental health care and, good friends and family support. And I recognize that everybody does not have that access. So I definitely have, especially in partnerships with men and dating men, have been like, well, I am this way because, I'm privileged, so
honestly, I feel privileged because I have my father, I have my mother, like very much in my life. Like my father's an artist, so he's so like emotionally available. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to date. And Black men are like, bitch.
Yeah. I think it's so easy. And I also think it's like, I am a communally focused person, right? Like I want to like help Black people, right? And so that ideology, when you're bringing it into dating, can sometimes be a disadvantage because you're like, I'm trying to uplift everybody. I'm trying to help everybody. Like you're a Black person. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah. And I'm a teacher. My mother's a nurse. So we have this like Florence Nightingale caregiver mentality. And I realized the last guy I was dating, I was like, this is exhausting. I can't do this anymore. But is it my responsibility because I'm a Black woman? I don't know.
It is not. No, we've just taken on that it is not our responsibility. Like we are too giving. We are too generous. And we put that responsibility on ourselves because it doesn't go the opposite way. Do they think it's their responsibility?
I know. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like they take on the responsibility of like, because I'm not a very sexual person. So the guy I was with like he helped that like bring that part out of me, and I was like, is this what you contribute to me? Like,
yeah, but
yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough. That was a high C.
no, people are always saying I make noises.
Whistle
So
breath.
yes, like obviously if you're partnering somebody, you share things, they teach you things, you teach them things, they expose you to things, whatever. But is it equal?
Right.
You know, like, okay, like giving me some it's giving me some sex pointers equivalent to me helping you get your entire life together.
You're killing me and I'm dead. And now I have to go to my funeral. Damn you, woman. Yeah, you're right. And I know, and lastly, I'm just always doing this thing where I'm like, you know, next, I'm not supposed to do this, but I compare that to my father just because he's so stable, like a tree. And so I'm like, I don't want to present anything less than that to my father. And that too is something I probably have to work out because I don't think I'm ever going to get that.
Yeah, but I actually think that is good. So I just had this like super long Zoom chat with my friends last night. And I think that one good thing about friends and family is, yes, they can be judgy and you're like, oh, like you're going to judge me. But that judgment can also be accountability. Okay. They can also be like, girl, what's going on?
Girl,
what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
You know, like, you know better. You've seen better.
Yeah.
We taught you better. Yeah. And that can be really helpful.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you
so much. Bye.
Have a good day. I'm trying to think of a situation where I invested in somebody and really felt like I got somebody I was dating and really felt like I got something out of it. And I'm pretty stingy. I'm going to be honest. I'm pretty selfish. Well, in my younger days. Not recently, because I feel like I've learned from that, but definitely in my early 20s when I was like paying for things and like, no. You know what? I was talking to my friends about this last night, and if one of my friends are in here, like, leave a comment. But I was talking about how at this juncture in my life, I would be willing to invest in a partner, but not until they have invested upfront, right? So like, I think that relationships fundamentally are about mutuality. You help me, I help you, we grow together. But I am not willing to do all of that labor and all of that work upfront. I need you to do that initial investing. Show me that you're serious. Show me that you are willing to do work. Show me that you are willing to do as much labor as I am potentially going to be expected to do later down the line. And then once I see that, you know, then we can move forward in a healthy way. But this idea of just going all in from the jump is just not for me. It's just not for me. I just need to see something.
So I think one thing that we confuse like with investment and potential is like letting our guard down and letting our boundaries down. So I think when you're making an investment in somebody, it shouldn't be to the point where you see a red flag and you ignore it. Like with Issa and Lawrence, I think she saw the red flags and she just put up with it. You know, she just said, oh, I'm just going to, you know, I think we all try to soldier on and be that rock in a relationship where you should just actually not let somebody overstep your boundaries when you're trying to make an investment. And still, investment is something I don't know if that's the best thing to do in a relationship. I don't know if investment is the word.
Yes. So this is a good point, right? Because I also think that like sometimes bringing in these like corporate words and like financial words into discussions about interpersonal relationships is not always helpful because it makes it feel a little bit too transactional. But because I don't want to ever be like one, like one tick on my side, one tick on yours. Like, it's not fun.
Yeah, the tit for tat, it just always never works.
The tit for tat, but it is like really thinking about what are your desires? Are your needs being fulfilled? Are your needs being met in a meaningful way?
Are we growing at the same pace? Are we not? You know what I mean? Am I exceeding your growth? Because if so, then you could be holding me back. There's, that's the type of things that I try to pay attention to. And investment, I always go towards money. And when I think about platonic relationships, like my mother or somebody like that, a lot of times she's invested a lot in me that I can't return. Right. I can't give back. And so when you try to equate that to a romantic relationship, it's a little bit different, especially when you bring marriage, especially when you bring shared income and all those other things into the picture. You just can't let your guard down just because of what someone's showing you through their actions. Like we can look at Lawrence and say, oh yeah, he may be growing a little bit, but that's only what we're, Condola's seeing one thing, Issa's seeing a different thing, his friends are seeing a different thing. And so the potential is never concrete. You know what I mean? The potential is never concrete. So investing is kind of like a loss. You know what I mean? You're going to be giving something that you may not get back. Right. And it's just difficult. I don't know how people feel comfortable just jumping in, letting my guard down. I'm going to ignore all the signs and just jump in here and see what happens. I don't think I could go there. Yeah.
It's hard. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is such a hard conversation to have, right? Because you want to protect yourself. You want to have boundaries, but also fundamentally, romantic love is irrational. It don't make no sense, And so it's irrational and it's risky. And we are trying to erect these boundaries and establish these rules and protect ourselves so that we can mitigate some of that risk. But fundamentally, if you want to fall in love, if you want to be in it with somebody, if you want to get to a place where you can even build a life with somebody, things that I don't even know if I'm really invested in all that, but a lot of people are, you're going to have to take the risk. So how do you decide which risk to take? I think that's the question for a lot of us. Next person.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I think my camera's really dirty. I'm in the process of doing my hair. But so I have a lot to say. So first, I don't even really think that Issa, her definition of invest, we haven't really seen it besides the fact that they lived together for 5 years, and for 3 of those 5 years, she was paying most of the bills or whatever. But we never saw her so what's up with whoop-de-doo or whatever, or any of these things to really say Condola is reaping the benefits off of the stuff you invested in him. That's a lie. I feel like, that's a lie. I feel like she's just jealous because she's just feeling the type of way that he has moved on. I don't think they should get back together because I think Nathan should come back because Nathan is the one that really encouraged Issa to even start this block party and go on this, self-love journey or whatever, and really start investing. Hey, Meech, can't go. I'm sorry, somebody said hi to me.
What's going on?
And we went to together, so it's a thing. So that's number one. Number two, I think when we talk about investing, it's sometimes you make a bad investment. Sometimes you waste your time. It doesn't mean that you need to go back to the person. I think that she should start either dating, see what's up with Nathan, or just be by herself. Because you spent a long time with somebody doesn't mean that you owe them the rest of your life or the best part of your life. I think she's just in a weird place, and I wish her brother would have been but what do you really miss about Lawrence? Because y'all relationship didn't seem that amazing in those 2 seasons that we saw them together. So
this is such a good point. It's something that I was referring to earlier. This is a risk. Yeah. Being in love is a risk. Partnering somebody is a risk. Moving in with somebody is a risk. Mm-hmm. And so the expectation, is it entitlement to feel like you were with somebody for 5 years, so you deserve to be with them?
Right.
Is that healthy?
No,
I don't know, man.
Because they wasn't sharpening each other. Lawrence doesn't even know why Issa cheated on him. Let's get to that. You don't even know why she did this. And Lawrence is cocky. He's arrogant. He's very audacious in the way that he approaches life and relationships. He has all his shit together and his shit don't stink. Dude, you're still carrying on the same things that happened in season 3 when his dad was relationships don't work, right? You're going to have to get over yourself. But he has a lot of ego where it doesn't need to be placed. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. Good luck with your hair. Looks gorgeous. Thank you. Have a good day. Y'all are so funny. It's so funny to me. Funny to me. Next person.
It's always me with the camera at the back. Sorry. Hi. So I have an example that's kind of similar to the whole, basically you're putting in all the effort to try to make somebody better. I feel like I made the mistake of dating someone younger. Not saying it's always a bad thing to do, but I made the mistake of dating someone younger. And it was, at first it was like spontaneous and fun, like it is, and then it started to become like, well, I'm not sure how to do this, and da-da-da-da-da, and it was always like asking me, how do I do this, and how do I better myself? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with helping. There's helping, and then then it started to feel like, am I your mum? Am I your older sister? Why am I basically raising you? Why am I basically your tertiary parent at this point? So it was always, even simple things like, bro, get an Airbnb, it's not rocket science. Things like that. And it's just like, not everyone has the money to do loads and loads of different things. Obviously the socioeconomic things, younger guys don't always necessarily have the capital to do things. But dumb shit like, why don't you have a passport? That's just simple shit that you should, at that age you should be, already doing, right? Bear in mind, I'm 32. The guy was like 24, so already. Woo! I'm in it. Exactly. That's where I made my mistake. Exactly. So it got to the point where, like I said, I was basically being this tertiary parent, and he was like, I have this plan, and I want to go to Tokyo, and I want to do this, I want to DJ, I want to do all these things. And it's like, that's great, but what exactly is your plan? And he's like, well, I thought you could help me with that. It's like, mate, I don't even know what I'm doing, let alone what you're doing. I don't want to have to raise you. Now it's been like a yearish, I guess, or so. Now he's gotten with a new girl, which is cool and everything like that. But it's just like, now he's actually starting to pull his finger out and do the things that all the suggestions I had been making, that were simple little things he could have tweaked to change his life. And now he's only doing them now. It's just like, so you didn't listen to me, but now all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is the idea. It's just like, come on, bro. So basically,
when you started to feel that kind of resentment, did you ever have a conversation with him about it?
Yeah, it kind of came up in conversation as, oh, I feel like whenever we're together, you kind of take control of things. It's like, well, first of all, I'm old enough to have babysat you as a kid, so there's that. But it's just like, I just basically was like, yeah, the age gap is like, sorry, it does kind of come naturally to me in a sense, and you were fine with it before. But when I'm making a real point about, it's like, well, you want this, but you don't have a plan to do this. I don't see why you're mad or why you're frustrated when it's just like, there's a simple explanation. May have been my wording. Maybe he was frustrated. Maybe he felt nagged. I have no idea. But the point is, it's just like the fact, it's like, I feel like I was doing all the pushing. You know what I mean? Because for me, it's like, I was a doctor's assistant at the time. And he's like, oh, you're making that money. And the expectation was like, you're going to help me do better and push me. And it's just like, no. Because his income was kind of like this because of music and stuff. And by the way, everyone, stop dating musicians. Just don't.
No comment on that. No comment. Shout out to the musicians out there.
I love you, but not that kind.
So after that experience, would you ever date a younger person again?
Not that young. And secondarily, I would have needed them to kind of be mentally on the same wavelength as me, because I like to travel. It doesn't always necessarily mean like, outside the country, because I do like to travel outside the country. They don't have to have that, but they're not trying to rise to the occasion. They're not trying to do better. You can't say, blah, 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 I want to go to Tokyo. It's like, well, I've been, you can go with me. I don't even have a passport. So for me, yes, I would, but not that big of an age gap ever again. That was a mistake on my part. But yeah, I can see what everyone's saying about this whole, you're basically raising a second person. And it's just like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing myself, let alone you, mate.
Yeah, it's rough. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
No problem. Bye.
Hello. I had a lot to say. I think the first thing I'm gonna start off with is just like how like ride or die culture doesn't benefit Black women, in particular like darker skinned Black women. Like I feel like for example, like a woman like Mashe, like me being a starter wife or me investing in like a man, like what, like let's say like the off chance that man, like assumes some clout. Like, do you really think he's gonna be like a visibly like Black, like for example, like I think of like Kevin Hart's like ex-wife. Oh my God, somebody said I was gorgeous. Thank you. But yeah, like Kevin Hart's ex-wife, and it's like, no, like I'm not gonna sit here and then like be used as like a vessel for success. And like I remember her saying like in an interview that like Kevin Hart like wasn't working for a couple years, and then she was holding him down while he was working at Foot Locker, and was like had like a floundering I don't know how to say that word, career as like a comedian. Like I'm not gonna do that. Like I'm not. And it's like when we talk about like ride or die culture, what men hold women down? What man hold women down? Like besides Papoose, what man has ever held a woman down? Kim, please, I don't see it. When it comes to prisons, when you look at women's prisons, the visiting room is not filled with men. When you look at sickness, men leave their sick wives. Men leave their sick wives. When it comes to age, how many men have like left like their like older wife? Like when she like older wife, they left them for a younger woman. So it's like investing in men. Like would these men invest in you? Would these men, besides Papoose, would these men invest in, like, would these men, like, they wouldn't. And it's like, the thing I hate about Lawrence is like, he has like this condescending, it's like, oh, like, he's Bill Gates, cause he deserves like a Nobel Peace Prize, cause he got a job. He bought a house. Like, no, I'm not. It's like, you want to terrorize every woman in the 5-mile radius because you did what you're supposed to be doing. And like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. It's like, no. And it's like also like the whole thing about like ride or die culture. It's like women have to suffer for that. And you guys are like romanticizing that. All these women have suffered. They have gotten cheated on. They have gotten all this other stuff. It's like they suffered.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like I'm not gonna do it. Like I'm 19 years old. I'm not gonna do that. Like I said earlier, I'd rather like braid blades of grass before I ever become a starter wife. Like it doesn't benefit me whatsoever.
So one thing I think is tricky here is you don't know when you're a starter wife. Yeah. And that's where women get caught up, right? So it's like, you could really think that. I'm sure that Tori Hart really thought that, I mean, they had 2 children together. She really thought that they were in it to win it. She saw him get his first jobs. She didn't know that as soon as he kind of got on, that they would get divorced and he would, I'm actually not going to insult Anika. I'm not going to do that. But she did not know because she didn't do nothing to me. So we're not going to do that. So it's like, I can imagine that it's very difficult to know when you are in a relationship and you think that your partner is in it too. You don't know that he's not all the way. You don't know that he's thinking, wait till I get on, okay, and then I'm going to get a Blasian woman. You don't know.
Yeah, so, and I feel like for that, it's just like, just don't invest in men. Like, don't invest in men, like, period. Like, no, I'm never gonna, like, invest in a man. Like, I'd rather be alone than, like, invest in a man. And I feel like it's just, like, such a romanticized, like, part of our culture. Like, for example, like, with, like, Lauren London and, like, Nipsey, it's like, oh, she's a ride or die. Like, they, like, literally harass her to this day. Like, oh, like, ride or die, dude. It's like, no, like, it doesn't really benefit us. And, like, yeah, like, that's all I wanted to say. And it's like, we have to, like, think of, like, who do men want to be with, like, in terms of desirability politics? Like, do men, like, when they get to the top, will they want to be with a woman who looks like me? No. So it's like, I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not going to invest in you. Like, no.
Fair points. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How did I leave?
Y'all are so funny. Yeah. So, look, I'm selfish, right? And I think that being selfish is kind of radical if you are a Black woman. I do think that. And I think that, like, having high standards and, like, setting firm boundaries, it is about self-protection. It also is just about fairness. It's just about fairness for me, right? Like, it's not fair that I'm expected to give a lot. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me. So I have some opinions, but it's coming definitely from a different place. Especially because I am, a gay Black man. It's slightly different. However, I will say that being in a relationship for almost a decade now, I think there is at no point that you don't either invest, or there is definitely a difference in who is investing in the amount that you're investing. I think that there are times where, yes, let's say I'm investing more than my husband, and let's say there's some years where he's investing more than me. But I think the real challenge is, are you both going in the same direction? And are you willing to, I guess, so I heard someone say this, I forget the name of the guy, but he said, the cost of admission is what your person is lacking, your spouse, boyfriend, husband, whatever, is what they're lacking enough for you to still stay? Are you willing to be that cost of admission, So I don't know. I think that sometimes that when people say, investing, I don't want to invest, kind of like what the last person said, maybe you should just stay single, because at some point you're going to have to invest. And it's definitely a gamble. I don't think there's any sort of you will definitely come out of this ahead without some sort of
yes, I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think that these are the really difficult decisions that we have to make. Is partnership worth it? There's more options. There's different options. Yeah.
Now, I'll say in terms of Issa and Lawrence, yes, he's definitely a bum, but there's a difference between being a bum and being a bum that, helps your partner out. He could have done a dish. He could have cooked. He could have, instead of especially I think, sometime in the first season where he made dinner for her, and I don't think that she responded the way that he wanted her to, and he got upset about that. Was well, where was that this whole time? So I think that yes, you're going to be investing different amounts, and Issa was definitely investing more than he was. I know we're not supposed to use the term invest, but I just think that if you're not able to put up what your partner is doing, at least do everything you can to show that that they are pulling in more weight, I guess you could say. And so and like I said, this is definitely different than if you're a heterosexual Black woman, because there's definitely more things surrounding that. And I know that you definitely have to be more guarded in what you put up front, especially, but I just think that if you are going to be with someone, at least look for the red signs. And if they're not at least willing to do those things for you, then it's nah, toss.
Yeah.
Toss it.
Yeah. I think but I do think that you made a really good point as a partnered person is you can't have a relationship without people pouring into each other, right? There has to be, you're going to give me things, I'm going to give you things. But I think it's you really have to continually assess okay, maybe I have more resources than you do, so I have more to give than you have to give to me. But are you giving as much to me as you can? Are you being stingy with me? Because I'm being generous with you. So I understand that we're starting from different points, but I need to know, this is just from my vantage point, I need to know that you are putting as much effort and as much work as you can into me. That's what I need. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, so when it comes to investing, let's get back to, the whole definition of the word. With investing, there will always be risk. And so that is part of what makes it so exciting when you have invested and it works. You know what I mean? I think that we need to just get back. We need to really understand the fact that there is no, we're never going to know, and you're essentially stunting yourself when you don't allow your partner to grow by you pouring yourself into them in some way. You're basically stopping your own growth and ensuring that, okay, I'm not going to give them anything. We're just all going to stay in the same line. And is that even progressive? What benefit does that give anyone? Even if you might not end up with them in the end, have you benefited at all by not investing,
This is a good, I'm so glad that you brought this point up, right? Because I do think that there are consequences to being selfish. So I've described myself as selfish, and I'm primarily self-interested, but I've definitely forfeited things because of that. And I don't know if, because I approach every potential romantic relationship with this kind of mindset, I was just having this conversation last night. I could have potentially missed out on a wonderful thing, somebody who could have improved my life dramatically in a way that I could not have anticipated, because I am so focused on getting what I need to get on the front end. I think that is a really, really good point, right? Are we blocking our blessings by kind of engaging in that tit for tat kind of
blessings right there? And why? What is the issue with, okay, let's say that you've invested, you've done your best, you told him to learn a new language, now he knows French, and you guys split. What is so negative about this person going on in their life, having had you as this stepping stone, not a stepping stone, because that does kind of sound like you're on the floor, But just you being this spirit, this person that just is able to improve those around you. Why are we only thinking of investing in our relationships? Everyone around you in your circle should get some benefit, should gain some growth. Like, doesn't that just make you feel good? Like, you know, okay, you left me, but now you're smarter, and now you get to carry that with you.
Well,
You know? Like,
well, no, it doesn't always make you feel good, right? But if it doesn't make you feel good, like a few callers ago, is that entitlement? Why do we feel entitled to somebody's end?
That's
Because,
true.
like I said, men have invested in me, and they're not getting 2020, Kimberly. Okay, and I don't feel bad about them not getting 2020, Kimberly.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. So, yeah, I think this is really an interesting, it's a hard balance. It is a really difficult balance when you're always approaching romantic love, which is fundamentally irrational and don't make no sense, from this place of defensiveness. I agree. I do think it forecloses some possibilities, but it's like, how do you know when to go out on the ledge, and how do you know when to be open and vulnerable, and then how do you know when to protect yourself? I think that's what we're all trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think that it's a lot of balance and just trying to not enter situations where you do see patterns of manipulative behavior, or you see patterns of, you know, oh wow, why do I feel so tired after hanging out with that person? They're draining your energy. Like, clock it there. You know, don't wait until you've, you know, paid them through school.
Yes.
And then that's ridiculous. And that, I would say, you know, don't ever invest what you can't lose. Like, don't, like, just like money, when you're giving money to friends, don't ever give more than you wouldn't mind seeing back.
Yes. This is okay. This is gonna be the last thing on this. But I do think that, like, you made a really good point about clocking it. Like, I think that a lot of us have difficulty communicating these feelings. So, like, we might feel an uneasiness about what we are sharing or what we are giving, and we don't feel empowered or capable or able to have a conversation about, I'm uncomfortable doing this, right? Like, I love you. I want the best for you. I'm doing a lot for you. But at this point, it's making me uncomfortable. Are we really having those conversations?
Ooh.
And if we get the wrong response to those conversations, go, okay? Like, cut and run. But if you're not even having those conversations before you're, you know, leaving or cutting them off or whatever, and I'm talking about, you know, healthy, you know, no abuse, no whatever, like, you know, like reasonable stuff.
Exactly.
What are we?
Yeah, it's just like having just. But then that's a weird point too, because if you never tell anybody that they're hurting you, is it their fault for hurting you? If you never tell anyone that this is too much, did they ever take too much? It's really, you've got to vocalize it all. But yeah, relationships are weird.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So I'm very much in the same vein as you. I feel that relationships are such an investment emotionally, and I like, you know, hanging out with friends, like that's nurturing to me, and like even going on dates. But I think sometimes the idea that love or growth can only come in certain types of relationships, right, under certain circumstances, is very limiting. So to me, I try to remind myself that, you know, there's nothing wrong with, say, a more quote unquote open relationship. I'm more used to a bit more sometimes straightforward transactional relationships in some ways, but I'm still friends with those people. There's still value in those relationships, even though I see people having traditional boyfriend and girlfriend, but it's draining to them. It doesn't have that sense of respect in the same way, even though they're doing a more traditional non-transactional relationship. And I'm like, something's up, right? Like, what is that? Like, people judge me being like, oh, you going around like you're kind of like a gold digger. But I'm like, I'm friends with these people. Like, they value me walking in a room, talking to them, you know, just entertaining them. Like, they want to take me on trips, but then you have a boyfriend girlfriend situation that's legit. And I'm like, does he do anything for you, girl? Or are you guys doing anything for each other? Like, what is this? So it's interesting.
Yes. Oh, you guys bring up such good points. I think that, like, because a lot of us do feel confined to like this very like traditional, like one person thing, like maybe we could get more of our needs met and feel less exploited if we were to explore different kinds of relationships. Yes. Yes. Such a good point.
Just,
thank you.
Yeah, but keep doing what you're doing. You're fantastic and enjoy.
Have a good day.
You too.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe try something different. I mean, obviously it's not for everybody, but I'm all about encouraging, like, I don't know. What are your options?
Hi, Kim. So investing in someone's potential, I feel like a lot of us have been in this life have been talking about investing in like just people in general, and investing in people is extremely important. But I think it's important to also get back to the specific topic about investing in potential. And when we invest in potential, there's always that potential loss, right? So we're always taking that on. We're always like accepting that. And whether we do lose or not, I think it's natural to feel defeated or a little upset that somebody is doing well, like after they leave you. It doesn't ever mean that that person owes you anything, right? Because that's something that you chose to sacrifice. But I think it's completely normal to feel like, what happened? And I feel like I invested so much and I didn't get anything out of it. And talking about Issa and Lawrence, I think that for years, we as viewers have allowed Lawrence to get away with so much for years. And we don't ever bring up these sort of like weird things that Lawrence gets away with. And I think the most recent thing is we're talking about whether Issa or Condola should be friends. But Lawrence is the one that started this in the first place. And I forget the friend's name, the kooky guy that Chad, I think his name is. He brought it up, but it was such a like passive moment. Like, why are you at a baby shower trying to pick up women? But more importantly, why are you at the baby shower of your ex's friend trying to pick up women? Right? And so it's not holding men accountable in those ways. And we've allowed Lawrence to get away with it. Why would you ever think it was okay to bring a friend or this person that you just started seeing to your ex's friend's birthday dinner? It's really these strange things. And I think for 3 years and a couple of episodes now, what we have seen is from Issa is what really happens in real life to so many Black women, where they're always critiqued. They're always questioned. Why did you do this? Right? Why are you doing something wrong? But the world around them exists, right? These other people don't have to suffer the consequences. That extremely racist company that she worked for what, the first 2 seasons, they did so many terrible things. And she messed up one time, a little bit. And like, you never heard the end of it. And so I think that this is very parallel to real life. But as far as, again, investing in potential, I don't know. I think there has to be a definite give and take with that, and being sure not to invest too much and ensuring that you're always trying to meet that person's energy, especially when it comes to men. Men, I don't know what it is. I feel like women are such nurturers, and we're socialized to be open. We're socialized to give this time. We're socialized to be selfless, right? And we're socialized to desire attention and affection from men. And so we have to be very critical not to give too much, because men will take advantage of that. Like they'll totally take advantage of it. And also like many men will respect you less for always pandering to them.
Yes. Okay. So it is about socialization and expectations and cultural expectations and all that. But it is also about, it feels good sometimes to be laying up next to somebody. Like, I think we have to be honest about, like, our romantic desires are also about like a base level fundamental, like we want to be nurtured and cuddled and cared for, and sex is fun. And so are you willing, we are often willing to sacrifice too much of ourselves, you know, too much of our material selves, our emotional labor, to get a little love and affection. And I don't want to blame you for wanting that love and affection. Like that's normal. It's natural. And I think that a lot of men know just how much they need to, you know, the little sprinkles of care, like considerate thoughts that they can give to you to keep you overextending yourself.
Yeah. I think it's so important for us to always like evaluate. Like I'm dating somebody right now that I like a lot, but I'm always evaluating like, oh, okay, well, this is an issue for me, right? Like, and I'm going to have a conversation with him about it. And we have had conversations about like, hey, this is what I need if this is going to be what it is, right? And sort of setting expectations for friends, setting expectations for romantic, like casual romantic encounters and relationships, and always using that as a baseline, not sticking hard to that rule, right? Because life isn't like that, but using that as a baseline and a guide of saying like, okay, this person is sort of crossing into one of my non-negotiables. How do I feel about that? And let's have a conversation about that. And then we can reevaluate. Maybe we can come to a place where we meet in the middle. And if this person isn't meeting in the middle, there are people out there who will, right? But also just being realistic about the situation. Sometimes sex is sex, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's great. But you have to like keep it in your head and like, know, like, this is it, right? This is the beginning and the end. This isn't going to develop into a relationship. This isn't going to be more than what it is, right? So I have to be careful about investing.
Right. Yeah, but that means both people have to be honest, and both people have to be communicative. Because if one person is lying and saying, oh, well, this is sex right now, but it might turn into something else, you know. So you know,
exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Kim.
Hi.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience in particular, and as it relates to the investment conversation. So my husband and I met when I was 19 and he was 21, so very young in college. So you can imagine we don't really have a lot to claim our own. We don't have anything to really say, you know, we have to get stuff together, right? We're still figuring it out. But
how old are you now?
I'm 29 and he's 31. So at the time, my parents made sure to instill in me about making sure that I take good care of my credit, budgeting, blah, blah, blah. Important things about being an adult and finances that I had not seen in my husband yet. And even that I had not seen in my brother. So in my mind, I'm like, well, why are parents parenting young women and young men so differently, you know, to the point where they're like, the men kind of seem inept in a lot of important factors about adulting. And women do end up having to take on that responsibility to catch them up to speed. And I felt obligated to do that myself because I loved him and still do. And, you know, I wanted to make sure if I was going to invest in him, that I was also investing in me. If I was getting married to the...
Okay, so to wrap it up, you married your husband when you were 19 and he was 21. You're 29 now, he's 31. You were talking about how you were raised to take care of yourself, no finances. The boys in your family were not raised the same way. So that means that women who partner men end up having to do the raising for their male partners. Okay, keep going.
Exactly. So I felt like if I wanted to take care of myself, I needed to make sure that I invested in him in order to, I don't know, gain a bigger investment later down the line if I was going to be his wife. You know, things that you think about when you get married, like if he dies, are everything in order? if we divorce, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of looked at it as like when you go into school and you take out loans and invest in your education, you don't necessarily in these times know that you're going to get a job that meets what you're looking for and your criteria, but you invest anyway in the event that you do get something, you land something great and sustainable. So that's kind of how I looked at it. I know it's very risky. It does not always end that way. Luckily for me, even though my husband had lacked in those areas, he was very emotionally available. And he did his best to take care of me and make sure, and still does during this pandemic, to make sure that I'm good and things like that. But I know that's not always the case.
Have you ever felt resentful?
Not in this relationship. A prior one to his, I had invested a lot emotionally. And that didn't work out. And I did feel resentful, because it was long distance and I had went on my way to visit him and blah, blah, blah. And I'm very young at this time, like 16. I don't even know how I managed to do that. But I was very resentful. We were together for 2 years. I thought I was going to marry him, and it didn't work out. But for some reason, I let myself kind of live through that, feel those feelings, go into college, and I wanted to invest in my friendships. So I wasn't really looking for a relationship when I met my husband. It kind of just happened. And by that point, I allowed myself to kind of feel those feelings again and try it again and see if I can strike gold this time around. And it's working out.
So I think that this is a useful perspective, right? Because we always hear the horror stories. This is a story where you invested on the front end and you feel like now, a decade later, you're getting what you need out of it.
Right.
Okay. Well, look, there's hope. Thank you. Okay. Someone out there has some hope for their male partner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Girl, I forgot to tell y'all, I have Airpods now because one of my subscribers, shout out to Rebecca, bought me Airpods, literally sent them to me in the, thank you so much. But I don't know, I think my ears are small or something, so they keep popping out. But shout out to Rebecca. That's why I have Airpods.
Hi, Kim. Sorry for interrupting you. It just came in. Congratulations on your new Airpods. What I wanted to say is that, is it ever a good idea to invest in someone's potential? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. As someone who wants married potential, never do it. Never do it. Never do it. Well, now, should you invest in people? Absolutely. You should invest. I mean, there's no other way to be in a relationship with people than investing, whether they're friendships, whether they're partnership. You'll have to invest at some point. Let's be real. But should you invest based on the person's potential? I can't advise it. Don't do it.
Why did you decide to invest?
Well, back then, I mean, my ex-husband was the first person I ever loved, and I guess he was also the first real relationship I ever had. So I guess I didn't put so much thought into the whole. I just didn't have any experience of what real relationships are, and what. The whole shebang. I just I still had this, I love you, love me, love conquer all, and love is enough. And, love isn't enough, people. If you're out there, love is not enough. I can't stress this, love will not conquer all. I'm so sorry, but
That's real. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to you. Bye.
Okay, so this is an important thing, right? Because we have these conversations as women, and I know that all women do not partner men. So this is a wide-ranging conversation for women. And we have these conversations as women, and then we get called bitter and y'all hate Black men and y'all are so bitter. But nobody ever considers that we have arrived at these positions because of previous life experiences. I thought the point of living life and going through things was to learn things from those experiences so that you can do better moving forward. But when we say, I'm going to do better in the future, I'm not going to do that dumb shit. then we get called bitter, and you are bitter, and you bitter women, you just sit around like talking shit about Black men. No, you're doing what you're supposed to do as a grown person. We are all a collection of our experiences. And I think like the key is, how do we learn and grow and evolve and take that knowledge and not let it harden us? I still want to be a soft person. I still want to be capable of vulnerability and intimacy, but I don't want to be looking crazy out here. I don't want to be looking dumb. And that's what we're trying to balance.
Hi. So I think this is a great conversation. And one thing that I kind of wanted to add to it is, one, I do think that we all sort of invest in potential, just in terms of like when you first meet someone, it's like, will this person be a potential mate, like a potential good mate? Or I think that there's like some level of potential that we all invest in. I think the question that I want to pose to the group is kind of, what aspects of potential are our deal breakers? So is it just like financial potential that we're looking at? Is it emotional potential? Because in the last caller, she sort of said, okay, like financially, he wasn't super savvy, but emotionally, it seemed like he had high potential there. So for me, it's kind of like a balance of deal breakers. And I think that as you get older and as you have experiences, you kind of figure out where you draw the line. So it's like, maybe you're someone who like finances is really important to you. So someone needs to show you that their financial potential is very high. Or, someone needs to show you that their emotional IQ potential is very high. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just kind of what I wanted to add. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Thank you so much for calling in.
Hi. So I feel like you have to invest in yourself first and foremost. You have to be the leader of your own life, because nobody's going to do it for you. And I think that if you're that kind of person, you have to find somebody who also feels the same way about their life. I don't want to pick up a limp body. You know what I mean? In my early 20s, I had a lot of work to do on myself. I had a lot of trauma that I needed to fix. And I said, I can't give much in a relationship, so I'm going to step back and not date. I will not accept somebody coming into my life and saying, fix me. I have problems. No, you have to do it yourself like I did. You know what I mean? And when I think about having a partner in life, it's one of those things where you're working together, but you can't be doing the work for somebody else. And I don't think it's possible, or at least I don't think it's wise to invest in latent potential if that person isn't actively working towards that potential. Mm-hmm. It's just not wise. When I think of my parents' relationship, there was a lot wrong with that, right? But they both were immigrants, and in the beginning of being here, they had to help each other out. And I remember my dad telling me how after I was born, he stayed home for a year because he had to study for these certifications so that he could work. So he was studying every day and taking care of me. And my mom was going to she was working at a meat packing factory. And, she was investing in that way. And then later on, that was an investment that returned. But he was home working on it while everybody was telling my mom, oh, he's a bum, he's useless. Mm-hmm. She knew what was going on. But if my dad was, for example, staying home doing nothing, that would be a silly thing to do. So I think you have to see that that person is working on themselves, working on reaching their own potential and not making you do it, or even you're not building up a fantasy in your head of what this person can be. If only I did this and this and that. You just have to look at the cold, hard facts, the reality. You know, that's
yes. Thank you. I am looking down because I'm writing notes. Shout out to my friend Patrice who got me this Living Single notebook. But yes. So what I was thinking of when she was talking was women, and I think women of color, Black women in particular, like we have this culture of self-work. I've said this many times because I believe it deeply. We have a culture of self-work where it's like, how can I be better? What do I need to do to improve? What do I need to do to get to the next level? Do I need to get another degree? I'll do that. Do I need to start a business? I'll do that. Do I need to go to therapy? Do I need to go to church? Like that is our culture. But not only that, we have a communal culture of self-work where it's like empowerment brunches, spaces like this, like let's come together, let's talk about our issues, let's work through that. Men do not have that. Black men do not have that. So after we spent all of this time investing in ourselves, investing in each other as Black women, and be like, yeah, girl, like you can do it, right? And then, you know, what happens when it's time to cuddle up? What happens when you want to have sex? What happens when you want to be partnered? You are most likely going to be partnered with somebody who has not done that amount of work. So then you become a full-time life coach. You know, like she said, then you laid up with a limp body. You're laid up with somebody with latent potential, not somebody who is actively doing the work. And it sucks because it feels inevitable. And it's like I had this conversation about Lemonade on Patreon and with members like a couple of days ago. And that's one of my big critiques of Lemonade. Actually, we won't get into it, but I'll just say like really quickly, like, I guess my critique is women do so much work on ourselves and for each other. And then that work gets put into trying to make a relationship work with a man who ain't done shit. And we get caught up in that cycle over and over and over again. Next person.
Hi.
Hi.
So first and foremost, I love your page. And I opened this up and I was like, oh, I was just praying to God for this. And he was just like, here you go. Here's the live. That's this. So I have been also reading the comments, and I think something really important with this point, because I definitely hear people say like, you should invest in potential and you shouldn't. But I think the real question is like, at what point does potential run out? Because it's like, I'm so happy that like for that I got up here and was like, you know, I was in this relationship for like 10 or so years and it was working, but it's like, are you willing to put 10 years? Because for me, those 10 years mean I'm spending 10 years developing you. And how many years did I just take off of developing myself? And I was actually just talking to my friend the other day. I feel like it's like the analogy of two people at opposite ends of something picking it up. If you're not picking your end, that means I have to pick up your end. And that means obviously it's not going to reach high enough because I'm in the middle trying to get both. And someone even in the comments said something deep like, you know, I feel like if someone is good financially and emotionally, it means it's all well and good. And I think especially as a Black woman, we are so used to being disrespected that when someone treats us with the respect we should deserve, we are almost taught to take it as that is what love is. Like you're being basic, like your basic respect, that's love. And you should just be happy with that. And I think I've actually just been starting to learn, like, no, I should not be happy with basic human decency. I should not be happy with basic human respect. That is how I deserve to be treated. And in fact, that is just the bar. So I think that's another point. And then I think a bigger question that I've actually just started to meditate on, and I think is like good when it comes to investing potential. A lot of times I think we as like women will be like, well, should I stay to invest in this person? And I think sometimes we have to ask the person, do you see yourself over here? Because I think when you ask a woman like, oh, are you going to invest in him? It's like, no, the real question is, do you see yourself on this team? Like if I'm investing in you, that means you have to be worth the investment. If you go on a college tour, it's going to be like, okay, well, what majors do you have to offer? What mentorships are there here? What internships can I get? Like if I'm paying money, what am I getting back? And I think like this thing really blessed me right now. Like I think sometimes as women, we're so much taught to be the guidance counselors and the mothers, and we give and we give. And we're never taught to be like, but hold up, what is my return? And I actually saw a tweet the other day that was like, oh, well, people aren't being married as long, or they're not getting married as early. And people used to be married 50, 70 years. And it made me laugh because the person's response was like, and grandma should have probably divorced him. That's why. And I actually was guided by a few of my friends who were like, listen, a lot of these marriages we see are very much men-sided. And it's not just Black men, it's just men as a whole. We were made to make sure y'all were the ones who got the nice job and got whatever you wanted. And now it's a partnership. So I just really wanted to say that. And also, I used to work, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but I'm originally from New Jersey. I used to work as a counselor for homeless and at-risk youth. And one thing I always taught them when they would try to be in intimate partner relationships is look at your relationships with everybody else. And when it comes to your partner, look at their other relationships, because that will teach you a lot. If someone doesn't even have good parental relationships or relationship with their friends or their family, that should tell you what a relationship with you might mirror. So I think like everyone on this call has a great perspective. But like I said, if we're investing in someone, what is my return? And I think that is the actual question. Because if I'm investing 10 years in you, then like something has to come out of it. But thank you again. Thank y'all for the hearts. Like I said, I was just scrolling because I have another IG. This is my poetry when she will speak. And I was like, let me get on this real quick, because this was like church for me right now.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I will say though, relationships are complicated, especially relationships with parents. So I don't always judge people based on the relationship with their parents, because parents be trifling too. But I do think that the relationships that you have a choice in, your friendships, your former partners, that is very illuminating. Hi.
Oh my God. Hi. For me is, I don't know, like, Black woman is always like thought to be, I don't know, I feel like sometimes Black woman has a lack of love, and sometimes we put this in a romantic relationship, and sometimes seems like, oh, I got to invest to this because we receive a little bit of love and we think this is something that we want to, and we want to invest. And sorry, I don't speak in English. I don't even
I think
that you would answer me, but I feel like sometimes we put a lot, and we feel like frustrated for do not receive, but sometimes we have to have boundaries, and we also have to think like what is our background, because I believe like the last two calls she said that how we have to invest in ourselves first, but sometimes we are not taught to do that. Like most of us, we're not taught to do that, and we put a lot in a romantic relationship. Like we feel like, oh, because like this man, and we're gonna create a bond, and we're gonna be together forever, and to fulfill something that is like is not their responsibility. You know, like it's not the other people to like fulfill like your traumas, your other things. Yeah, sometimes we put a lot, and we also like teach to put a lot. Like for me, like I was talking with my friend, and with a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, but Lawrence is not a bad person, Like I still believe that he and Isa are gonna go back together, but like seems like when I saw these three relationships, like Lawrence with Isa, Lawrence with Tasha, and Lawrence with Condola, for me it's weird because like with Isa he doesn't have any movement. With Tasha seems like he knew he was better than her. There is a point that he went to a family party, but seems like he was looking down to them, and she ran away. But in Condola she want to make sure like she feel good. He was cleaning his house, like her house, like he didn't do this for Isa, and understand why she felt like that. Is there resentment to like, oh, she's doing for her what what she didn't did for me. It's more than what I invest, but like what I receive.
This is so true.
Like he was paying like restaurants for her. She is more. It sucks when you see. Let's be real. It sucks.
But Condola would not have accepted less. Right, like that's the point. Like Condola would not have accepted what Issa would have accepted, or accepted what Tasha would have accepted. And is that why she's getting more?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Like I'm from Brazil. Like I love your content.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, I wrote down because she made some really good points. Like, okay, so when we're talking about giving and being generous and investing in people, we're often talking about what the other person is taking from us, and like if they are exploiting us and if they are taking advantage of our generosity and our vulnerability. But she actually made a really good point. Sometimes we are giving and giving and giving and overextending ourselves to fill a hole that we have. We're trying to fill ourselves up by overextending ourselves and giving and giving and giving and like doing too much. And like that is the reason why that self-work is really important. That's the reason why, like, I understand everybody does not have access to therapy, which, you know, I live in the United States. This healthcare system is really horrible and shitty, and it leaves most people unable to get adequate mental health care. But like that is the reason why before you are engaged, trying to really deeply engage people romantically, before you are, you know, giving all of this stuff up, it is really important to do that self-work so that you are not, you know, trying to show yourself worthy in the eyes of whomever you're trying to partner so that you can feel good, so that you can get self-esteem. That's such a good point. You guys are so smart. I am hungry, so I am going. But thank you guys so much. I actually think that this is going to be up on YouTube. So, because it was good and it was interesting. So that's it. Have a great day. I don't know when I'm going to go live again. I just go whenever I want to go live. Thank you. This will be up on the Instagram for a while, and then it's going to go up on YouTube. Bye. See you later.